was. 2 Thessalonians chapter 3 and verse 9. Paul is saying that as an apostle who had led them to the Lord and established a church among them, he had the right and authority to claim an offering. However, he did not do this because he wanted to be an example to the believers in Thessalonica that they might not be led to some fanatical position. A young couple who had been in my classes when I taught at a Bible institute were inclined toward fanaticism. They thought they were super duper saints, way out ahead of everyone else. But their exam papers uh, were graded C's or D's because they didn't really know the word, although they affected to be very spiritually. Although they affected to be very spiritual, identically, I don't think a person can be truly spiritual and be ignorant of the Word of God. Interesting. They came to me after I had become a pastor in the city and said they wanted to go on the mission field. They attended the church I served, although they were not members. I asked them if they had their financial support. They said no. I asked, do you mean that you are going to the mission field without support? Oh, they said, we're going to trust the Lord. Well, I said, it's nice to trust the Lord, but can't you trust Him to raise your support here? Uh, must you wait until you get into the mission field to trust Him for support? Why don't you get under a reputable mission board and work with them if the Lord has called you to go to the mission field? He will raise up support for you. The Lord will lay your needs on the hearts of certain folks who will pray for you and support you financially. No, they didn't want to do it that way. They wanted to go to, uh, they were just going to trust the Lord. Well, this young couple went out to the mission field, and there they became casualties. They had to be brought home with money that some friends raised to pay their passage. Since that time, they have separated and are divorced. She is remarried again. I have heard that he has lost his faith altogether. Although I doubt that he ever really had faith, their behavior was foolish and fanatical. Paul was making missionary work very practical. He supported himself by working with his hands, and he did it to be an example of the Thessalonian believers. He is going to make a point of this in the next verse. Whenever I had the rehab. I opened it up. I found it very easy to do. I couldn't get any support. Nobody would help me. I shouldn't have asked for support, I guess. I have this cliche or this saying: if it's the Lord's will, it's the Lord's bill. It was kind of interesting. I made it very simple. I had a 3-bedroom home with 1 bath, and the bills were no more than it would be with me living there with Braden. And so I had 5 guys living with me. The electric and the water and just all the same expenses. And the same way with the sober living home. And so it's very simple. I was able to pay for it out of my own dime, out of my own pocket. Yes, well, Mount Hebron. I do appreciate them. They did hire the guys. I think they gave us $3,000. The guys helped work on their building project for some time, and they paid the guys for their work, paid the rehab for their work, and so that was the only money that we kind of raised during that time. But God provides in that way. But you do have this example of this couple. Can't go off half cocked, not having a way to provide. You need to have the ability to pay for it yourself, uh, at least, before that you go off uh, and do the Lord's will. And so With that, we